So what do you do when you still don't know? You've been looking in the help, you've been using the help every which way that is possible, and you still don't know how to go at a problem. Well, when you still don't know from the help and all that, the second thing to do is to search in the forums. And I can recommend two sets of forums for you. The first one is the one that is on MySnip. It's the most used forum in English language that I know of. The second one would be the one that you find on the PCSoft website. Basically, there's so many people using the first one that in order to populate the second one, they are duplicating the post from the MySnip forum on the PCSoft one. You have also to know that the PCSoft forum is moderated, so they are not duplicating all the one that are on the MySnip forum. Some of them are not judged valid by the moderator. And also that the PCSoft forum is separated in WinDev, WebDev, and WinDev Mobile subforums, while the MySnip forum is generic all tools at the same time. So it's your choice. You have the two possibilities here very easily. Now there are other forums in French, in Spanish, in German, in this and that, the other. I don't know them. I go only on the French PCSoft forum. You can also do a search on a French forum if you use Google Translate. It's possible. It's more difficult, but it's clear that the French forum has tons and tons and tons of information. If you didn't find what you wanted in the forum, then you should search on Google. And it's very easy to find lots of things concerning our tools on Google by just doing the right request. And for that, you're going to do WinDev and what you're looking for, WinDev USB or WinDev SMS or this or that or the other, or W language and what you're looking for. You will find everything that concerns that specific question. And you will find it in the help file that are online on the PCSoft website that are searchable. You will find it in the different forums. You will find it basically everywhere, everything that concerns that. So Google really is your friend. If you still don't know where to go from there, then you ask on the forum. Not before you do all that, because 9 times out of 10 the answer that you're looking for was already there, either in the forums, on Google, on the web somewhere, on my website, whatever. Google will find it for you. So there's no reason for you to ask again a question that has been answered 10 times already, except again looking bad on the forum. That's all you'll get. So first search, then ask. Now when you decide that you need to ask a question, you should ask the right way. And for that, the first thing that you have to do is to say, okay, my question is about this tool, WinDev by example, and version 17 by example, or 18. If you don't, then that's the first thing that you're going to get as an answer. Okay, what are you talking about? Do you need that on the web? Do you need that in WinDev? And so on and so forth. Though the first thing to do is to use the right tool and version. Of course, if your question regards some code, you should post your code, the one that is not working, otherwise we won't know what's going on. You should also, most of the time, post on an image. Why? Well, clearly it's not an image of you in your last vacation. What you want to do is follow the old saying, an image is worth 1,000 words. So when you're explaining a problem, doing a print screen of your page where you have the problem, or your window where you have the problem, is a very good idea. This way we'll be able to better understand the problem and better answer it. You should also give context. Are you working on Linux, AWP, Ajax, Java, iOS, this, that, the other. Saying that you're working with WinDev Mobile is not enough. The answer is not going to be the same if it's for Android, iOS, Windows Mobile, and so on and so forth. So you always need to give context. Please do not assume you know where the problem is. You suspect that the problem is at some specific point, maybe, but if you knew where the problem is, you would know how to solve it most of the time. Very, very often people assume that the problem is on something, don't give information about anything else, and then wonder why we don't give them the solution. The solution is in another part of your code, so do not assume that you know where the problem is. That is just a waste of time. Also remember one thing, when you're asking a question on the W language forum, you should talk W language, not your old tool. So try to use the name that we are using in W language. A table is a control in W language. It's not a data file. That's the very best example that I give you, because the number of questions regarding tables is huge. But are you talking about the control, the file, this, that? Nobody knows. So try to use the correct words. You will get much better answers. So in your question you should be precise, clear, and for God's sake use punctuation. It's not that I'm a grammar Nazi, not at all. It's not a problem, but punctuation is what is going to give logic to your question. Without punctuation you have a long string of words on 10 lines, and you don't know where the sentence starts, sentence ends, and there's no way to understand anything in it. So please help the people who are ready to help you and give you answer on the forum by being as precise as possible. By doing all that, you will first learn more by doing the search in the forum and all that. Before you ask a question, you'll be able to learn much more about the problem and therefore ask questions that are much more precise. So you will learn more in any case. You will also gain time, because people will be able to answer you much faster, and in fact most of the time you won't even have to ask the question, you will already have found the answer. And also, when you ask a question and you ask it the right way, you will look way less like a, well, I'm going to let you fill the blank here and choose whatever you want. But really, it works. You should do it that way. About external tools. At some point we are all inclined to say, okay, I cannot do that in my tool, I need something external that I will call, include, link to, and something like that. Now, if you have the choice, don't do it, don't use external tool. If you can find any way around it, don't use external tool. That's really a really best practice that I feel strongly for. It's not that I don't know how to do that. I have courses if you need to use an API call, if you need to use .NET, an ActiveX, all this kind of thing. But if you can't find a way, don't use them. This is why. First, most of the time they cost money, so it means that you're going to have to pay extra, either just for your development or for even each time you install your software afterward. They have some of them you need to pay each time you install, so they cost money. Secondly, a new version of the tool may not be compatible. Look at what is happening with Microsoft Office. Now Microsoft Office has been replaced by Microsoft Office 365, which is basically an online version, and everything that you had with your regular version installed on your computer, all your links, what are you going to do with them? There are other examples like that. I think it's QuickBook who is just letting his old UI die and replacing it by an API that is only on the web. So basically you have to redo everything, and not all functions are compatible. Not all functions are ported, and maybe they won't be. Um, Now also some of them are completely abandoned. By example, not long ago Google just closed 65 different services that it was offering to the developers. 65 different services. If you are using them, you're dead in the water. The Skype API that was available and allowed you to link your Skype program to your own program, see what number were called in and all that, is not supported anymore. Just like that. You have absolutely nothing to say. You link to something external and they change the external. Now, there will be bugs in those tools and some may never be corrected and you have absolutely no way of doing anything about it. Also, when you decide to use an external tool, you clearly haven't used it before. So there are a number of functions in it and you start testing and everything is great, everything is working. And then the last function that you need to use to finish your application is something that is not supported in the link with W language because of a specific type of variable that is not supported, or this or that, and you just spent a lot of time and money for nothing. So again, try not to. Now also one good reason not to use external tool. You came to WinDev, WebDev or mobile because, as the ad says, everything is included. Now we all know that's not true. Not really. Not everything is included. But still, lots of things are included in the tools, and most of the time you can find a way not to use external tool. So if you can, really don't. Let's talk again about the SCM, the source code manager. We already saw in which condition you want to use it and in which one you may be better off not using it. Now, if you decide to use the SCM for any of the very good reason that there are to use it, you need a fast network or internet connection. One situation where you want to avoid to use the SCM is over the internet with a connection that is not fast enough. I tried to do that with a connection that was 1 megabit, and it's really a pain. You're going to end up really waiting all the time and having problem reintegrating, timeout, this and that. This tool works much better if you have a fast connection to the database. Now, if you have good connection with the database, you do it inside network or with a fast connection, it's great. But if you're using the SCM, most of the time you're going to work with other developers on the same source, on the same project. So do not reintegrate any page, any window, anything who has a compiling error, ever. Remember, compiling error means that the other people will not be able to use that part of the program, and they may need to in order to be able to do their work. So don't reintegrate with compiling error. You are going to crash everybody else. Don't reintegrate also code with warnings. When you're compiling a project, all the warnings are popping up in the window. So if you reintegrate a window with 20 warnings in it, you're just polluting everybody. Don't be that guy. Also, don't reintegrate your work without comments. In fact, the SCM can be set up to forbid anybody to reintegrate if there's no comments. But you're a big guy. You don't need to have somebody force your hand. Just put the comments in. You are working in a team. You're not alone. Don't be that guy. Remember, you are not working alone, and everybody will judge you. If you do this kind of thing with the SCM, everybody else, it's not hidden anymore. Everybody else in the company who is using the SCM, working on the same project, will see it, they will have the error popping up. They will see who made that code. They will see that there's no comment. They will see all that. They will see. They will judge you. You will be that guy. So don't do it. And now we're going to finish this part with some more advice about coding itself. The first thing, each time you call a procedure or method in a class or a page or a window and you pass parameter, it's all with the same keyword, the procedure keyword in W language. Well, each time you do that, you have to make sure that you type your parameters, which means that a parameter of a method, my method, then the first parameter is something, and you always should say is string, is integer on 8, is real, is this, is that, to always specify what type of variable you want be sent to you. Why? Because if you don't, you will make yourself the mistake to send something else to your code, and you will not see any problem during the compiling phase. It's only while testing that you will have some strange behavior and say, why is it not working? Yeah, well, if I'm sending a string and the procedure is not specifying but is waiting for an integer, well, the string will be automatically transformed in integer by the W language, and because there's no number in it, it will be 0, and of course nothing will work. So you need to always say my parameter is string, my parameter is int, my parameter is this or that. That's the first thing. The second thing, you should always specify in the name of the parameter when the parameter is an out parameter, when it's a result. Why? Well, if you have only one result in a procedure, you can very easily do result my result and be done with it. That's easy way out. When you need several results in a procedure and you're working with anything before the version 19, which is introducing the possibility to send back several results, so with anything else, you're going to use the fact that you're going to pass some variable as parameter, and a procedure is going to put the value in them automatically. Well, each time you do that, you need to know in the code of your procedure, each time you're using a variable, that this procedure, this variable value is going to go out of the procedure. You need to know it because when you come back several months later and you change something, you want to know at that point that this change is going to influence the outside world. It's not something that is only inside the method or the procedure. So you want to have this information in the name of the variable itself, not just by saying, okay, it's this value is local, this one is not, and so on. No, you won't have it in the name. What I'm doing is I'm ending the parameter with out in uppercase. This way I always know. So it will be my company out. I know that it's something that is going out of the procedure. You also always want to add par underscore at the beginning of your variable name, your parameter name. Why? Because you're not going to process your parameters the same way than any other variable. These are values that are coming from the outside world and eventually going out to the outside world. These are not local variables, these are not global variable, these are very specific, and you want to be sure that in your code all the time, if you're using one of those, you know that you're using one of those. So when you add all that with the typing for the prefixing for the typing, you end up with a parameter that is called, by example, spar underscore my company name out. And when you do that in your code, in your procedure, you are just reducing the possibility of error by a factor 50. because you always know that it's a string, you always know that it's a parameter, you always know that it's the company name because of the name of the variable, and you always know that the value of that variable is going out to the outside world. So that's really giving you a lot of information just by looking at the name of the variable. Now, you should always use constant instead of literal value in your code. The first reason why is because there will be less errors. Clearly, when you do my variable equal 1, or my variable equal 2, or my variable equal 4, or you do my variable equal constant in the case of the captain, constant in the case of the lieutenant, constant in the case of the sergeant, and that's the 1, 2, and 3, and 4 in your database, clearly you're going to be less prone to mixing 1 with 2, with 3, with 4. Those are not meaningful values. Also, because the compiler and the editor are working so great, you will have an autocomplete. So your constants are always CST my company, CST my contact, CST my... So you just go there where you need a constant, you do CST, and you have the list of constant there. And you know that it's something about company, so let's say it's going to be CST company, and you see company name, company type, company value, company state, and so on and so forth. And you will automatically choose the right one because it's much easier. So with all that, it's going to be much easier first to write your code, because instead of having to remember, okay, in that case is the value 4 or 3, I have to go back, check my commands there. You have it directly with the autocomplete. Then it's going to be much easier to read. When you come back 6 months later and you see my value equal 1, what is 1? In which case am I? I have no idea. With the autocomplete, you already have, and the constant, you already have information about what's going on. And of course, it is going to be way easier to debug. Now, if there's one type of variable that you should not use today, it's the type reals. Why? Because reals, from the beginning, from their conception, had a very bad flow. They cannot store all values. Why is that? Well, the people who created this type of variable were working at a time where each byte was extremely precious, where you had this very small memory, all these kind of things. So in order to improve the memory usage, they created this type that could contain numerical value with variables, so value before and after the period. And to do that, they did it in a way that not all values are possible. There are some values that just don't have any way of being coded. So a value that is nearby is used instead. As long as you round your reals the right way at the right time and so on and so forth, you don't have any problem. But you have to always be careful to do that, and always know exactly how to do it and when. Nowadays, we don't have any memory problem, we don't have any hard drive problem, we don't have any compelling reason to use reals at all. So don't. Just use numeric, decimal numeric instead, and this value will never have this kind of problem. So it won't matter which value you store in it, you won't have to round them, you will always be with a value that is exactly the way it was entered. So don't use reals, there is absolutely no reason you should do that today. Also, in calculations, if you're doing complex calculation in your code, don't let the compiler decide the type of the variable that it's going to use for the calculation. There was a thread on a forum lately of somebody who was whining literally about the fact that the compiler was deciding to do the calculation in a real or an integer or a this and that it was not the right type to use, and the compiler shouldn't do that. And come on, don't let the compiler decide. The compiler is doing its thing. Okay, maybe it's the right thing, maybe it's not, but let's not even start to talk about that. You have calculation to do. You're the one who knows the logic of the, so you don't do your whole calculation on one line with a lot of parentheses and all this kind of stuff, where the compiler will have to do some intermediate calculation and therefore store that result in something, and you don't know what that something is going to be, so you don't do that. You use variable, not values. So the first thing is you don't use multiply by 50.5. Is the 50.5 going to be a real or a numeric? You don't know. And maybe it's going to be a real because long time ago it was a real, there was no numeric, so they're still doing real in order to continue to work the same way. But you want numeric? Okay, well, you declare numeric, you put 50.5 in it, and you use your variable that is of the correct type. The same way, you break your big calculation into several sub-calculations, and each result of this calculation you put in a variable of the type that you deem is the good type. And after that, you do the calculation on this variable. This way, you will know exactly what is going on, you will have exactly the result that you want, and you won't have any problem. To finish this course, at least for now, maybe there will be a new part in a few months, because clearly best practice is a never-ending subject. Don't assume. It doesn't matter what about here in this last example, somebody was assuming that the compiler would use this type of variable. Don't assume. Make sure that it is going to do what you want it to do. You're the one in control. You know what they say about people who assume, so just don't.